The cameras caught Stephanie White in a moment of pure frustration. She'd seen enough. After back-to-back whistles that made no sense, she turned to the officials, gave them an earful, and walked away with a technical foul. To anyone watching, it wasn't just a coach losing composure. It was the release of weeks, even months, of bottled-up tension. White wasn't simply yelling for her players. She was saying what every fan in Gainbridge Fieldhouse and every Fever supporter at home had already been shouting at their screens. The officiating was tilting the floor against Indiana, and the season's most important game was slipping away, not because of execution, but because of whistles. Imagine the scenario. You limp into the postseason already gutted, already fighting with half your roster on the injury list. Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom who changed everything for the Fever, gone with a groin injury. Khloe Bibby, sidelined by her knee. Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Coulson, both out with their own knee issues. Arie McDonald, foot injury. And then, less than a day before Game 1, Damaris Dantas ruled out with a concussion. 6 players. 6 names from the rotation erased before the playoffs even tipped off. Any other team might have folded at that point. But Indiana? They strapped on the tape, leaned on whoever was still standing, and stepped onto the floor in Atlanta ready to fight. Even then, the Fever made a statement before the first basket was scored. They brought all 16 players to the game. Healthy or not, every single one was there. It was symbolic, a reminder that unity means more when adversity threatens to break you apart. But the symbolism also highlighted the absurdity. There weren't enough seats on the bench, so players in street clothes had to sit in a second row, watching like passengers waiting for their boarding group to be called. That's what this season had become. A team stitched together by resilience and defiance. Even when circumstance mocked them, and somehow, despite all of it, they opened Game 1 by punching Atlanta right in the mouth. Kelsey Mitchell caught fire early, drilling shots with her usual confidence. Aaliyah Boston controlled the glass, clogging up the paint, outworking players who were supposed to be fresher and stronger. The Fever built a 15-6 lead, the kind of start that had the dream backpedaling and scrambling. It felt like Indiana had decided to ignore the reality of 6 missing teammates and rewrite the narrative with toughness. For a moment, it was working. For a moment, it looked like the impossible was within reach. Then came the whistles. And with them, the unraveling, possession after possession, calls didn't add up. Ryan Howard stumbled on her own, but the foul went against Indiana. Lexi Hull fought around a screen with perfect defensive positioning, yet the referees sent Howard to the line. Stephanie White burned her first challenge in the first quarter, something no coach wants to do that early, just to prove what was already obvious. Her player hadn't committed a foul. Replay confirmed it. Call overturned. But what good is winning a challenge when the damage is already psychological? White had to waste her bullets to correct mistakes that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The worst part? It didn't stop. In the second quarter, Hull again was whistled, this time after taking an elbow to the face. Not only was there no foul called on Atlanta, but Hull herself was slapped with one. White burned her second challenge, won it again, but by then she had no more left to use. Any call from that point forward, fair or not, stood, and the Fever knew it. They were at the mercy of referees who seemed determined to shape the game. Meanwhile, Atlanta's physicality went unchecked. Brittany Griner muscled into Boston with elbows flying, and play continued. Brianna Jones shoved Turner off balance in the paint, no whistle. When Indiana so much as brushed a hip, the foul came instantly. The imbalance wasn't just noticeable, it was glaring. Fans at home raged online, players gestured in disbelief, and Stephanie White's face told the story better than any stat sheet. Her team had spent an entire season fighting through injury after injury, only to watch the biggest game of their year compromised by whistles that killed their rhythm and drained their spirit. By halftime, the Fever's early confidence had dulled. By the third quarter, the Dream had seized momentum, turning free throws into runs, building separation Indiana could no longer bridge. Odyssey Sims dove for a loose ball, a hustle play in any other context, and got punished with another whistle. White snapped. Her technical foul wasn't just a reaction, it was a boiling point. Fans roared in support, because finally someone had said out loud what they'd been watching all night. And yet, through all the chaos, the Fever still refused to die. That's where the heart of this story lives. With everything stacked against them, injuries, a short rotation, refereeing that tilted the game, Indiana still clawed until the final buzzer. They had every reason to fold, and still they didn't. Kelsey Mitchell was the fire that kept them alive. She scored 27 points, nearly half her team's total, hitting tough shots and attacking relentlessly even as the Dream packed the paint. She added 4 assists and even a block, doing everything in her power to prove Indiana belonged. It was a playoff career high, but more than numbers, it was defiance. Every bucket she scored was a refusal to bow to circumstance. Aaliyah Boston battled in foul trouble, but still ripped down 12 rebounds. She wrestled against double teams, shoved off elbows, and kept attacking. Her scoring was limited, just 8 points, but without her presence, the Fever would have been buried much earlier. She played through pain, through frustration, through whistles that punished her strength, and she never stopped. Lexi Hull chipped in 9 points, including one of Indiana's rare threes, and gave the kind of gritty defense that box scores can't capture. She was thrown around the court, whistled for phantom fouls, and still kept fighting around screens and crashing for rebounds. Her effort didn't come with glory, but without it, the Fever would have been finished far sooner. But the contrast was unavoidable. Atlanta had bodies to rotate, fresh legs to deploy. Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray both poured in 20. Naz Hillman provided a spark with 16. Griner's presence forced adjustments all night. The Dream's depth smothered Indiana's thin rotation, and the Fever simply couldn't keep pace. They shot under 35% from the field, just 2 for 15 from deep, and every miss was compounded by the Dream grabbing the rebound and punishing them in transition. And yet, when the final buzzer sounded, what stood out wasn't resignation. It was belief. Indiana's players walked off the floor knowing they'd been battered, knowing they'd been shorthanded, but also knowing the series wasn't over. They'd fought through a nightmare and survived long enough to bring the battle home. For the first time since 2016, Gainbridge Fieldhouse would host a Fever playoff game. The significance of that fact alone meant the fight was worth continuing. For the players, the frustration of Game 1 had to turn into fuel. The officiating wouldn't change. The injuries wouldn't magically heal. But what could change was execution, energy, and the undeniable force of a home crowd. Stephanie White said it best. This isn't about the regular season anymore. It's not about what record they carried or who they beat in July. It's about Atlanta. It's about Sunday. It's about one game in Indianapolis that could flip the narrative and prove resilience is sometimes stronger than talent, Kelsey Mitchell admitted. She'd let her excitement come when she finally stepped on the court at home, but she knew the truth. Gainbridge can be a weapon. For nearly a decade, Fever fans had been waiting for this moment. The Pacers showed in their playoff run earlier this year just how loud and electric that building can get. Now it's Indiana's turn to bring that same fire. The crowd won't grab rebounds or guard Ryan Howard, but their energy will shape every run, every defensive stand, every possession where the Dream start to feel pressure. This is where survival turns into identity. Injuries and bad whistles may have scarred Indiana, but they also forged a team too stubborn to quit. Win or lose, Game 2 will define how this playoff run is remembered. Is it the story of a team buried under impossible odds, or the story of a group that rose through them anyway? Fans, you've waited nearly 10 years to fill Gainbridge with playoff energy. This is your moment. This is your team's moment. And the question now is simple. Can unity, resilience, and a roaring crowd overpower everything else? We'll find out together.